I wasn't even ready. Like when Texas reached out to me, and I told you I interviewed with 2 places here in Texas. When they reached out to me, I was just looking. I wasn't even ready to start interviewing yet. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joy. I'm a nurse practitioner living here in Houston, and I make content about living here in Houston, becoming a new nurse practitioner, and how to achieve your goals. If that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and push that subscribe button and let's get into the content. Today's video is going to be about the nurse practitioner interviews. You guys have messaged me and left comments saying that you want more information about how the interview process goes and questions that I asked and questions that they asked. So this is going to be a 2-part video. This week we're going to talk about the interview process, what it looked like for me, and tips that I have. Okay, first I'm going to talk about some tips that I have before you even get to the interviewing process. Number 1, I want you to remember that when you're in clinicals, that is literally like your first job interview. So when you're in clinicals, just remember people are watching you, they're paying attention. A lot of times that's where new grads get hired straight out of school. At my old job, where I did my clinicals, the nurse practitioners precepted you, the physicians were there, everybody was watching you, and at the end people decided whether they wanted to hire you or not. Even if you interview, like, they still can decide they don't want to hire you. So keep that in mind. During clinicals, they are watching you. It's always a job interview. Neonatology is a very new field and it's very small. So even if they don't hire you at this location, they may know somebody. They may know somebody they can refer you to for a job, or somebody might call them and be like, hey, did you work with Joy? Like, how was she? And then they could say, oh, she was horrible. Like, her scrubs were always wrinkled. She came to work late. She was not very interested. She didn't ask questions. They can say those things to people who are hiring you because neonatology is so small. Everybody kind of knows everybody. So just keep that in mind. Like, number 1, clinicals is your first job interview, period. Okay, so I feel like in my program they didn't really go over how to get a job, like what your resume needs to look like, what it looks like being credentialed, stuff like that. So I'm also going to make a video on being credentialed, like paperwork and all that kind of stuff you need to know about. But something to remember about your resume is you want to keep it clean. You want to show your experience. You are a new grad, so you don't have like experience as a nurse practitioner, but show your experience as a nurse. What have you done in the unit? I was on several committees. That was all on my resume, and it came up in my interview. They asked me questions about the committees I was on, what interests me. So put that kind of stuff on your resume. If you volunteered, stuff like that. But don't put like a picture, a whole bunch of different fonts, different colors. Stay professional with your resume and make sure you name your resume with your last name first and then your first name, because when recruiters are looking through resumes, you don't want them to look at this resume and it's labeled RN position resume, or my old resume, or whatever. You want it to have your first and last name so that they can easily, if I think about her, like she did good in her interview, let me pull her resume up. They can easily pull it up. You want to make things as easy as possible for the recruiters to deal with you. Your preceptors are going to know the most about you, especially if you have like a consistent preceptor. So if you're doing pretty good with that preceptor and you think they will give you a good reference, ask them, like, would you mind being a reference for me? Because they're going to be the people who can like really speak on you. And with my job specifically, they did ask for my professor's email contact and a preceptor for references. So I couldn't just use RN friends or regular friends. They did ask me for specific people. So keep that in mind, like what professor can you use and what preceptor can you use. Make sure you have an email that's very professional as well. My email has my first last name at outlook.com. Okay, so make sure you have your professional email. Don't use your personal, funny emails. Use first name, last name at Outlook or whoever, but first and last name. Again, we want to make it very easy for the recruiters to find us, and we also want to look very professional when interviewing for these jobs as a new grad. The practice that you're trying to work for or the hospital that you want to work for may specifically be looking for a new grad. They want to train new grads. Like, new grads are easy to train, and some hospitals do prefer a new grad to fill in these spots. You know, we have to have a balance of skills. So you want to have experienced nurse practitioners, but then you also want to have new grads that you can train and you can keep them longer. So when I wanted to start looking, I mean, I wasn't even really looking yet because it wasn't even close to me graduating. But when I was just like looking, you know, just looking online for jobs, I did go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend when it comes to finding a nurse practitioner job. You can find a contact on there so fast, and they will reach out to you. They will get you interviewing. I wasn't even ready. Like, when Texas reached out to me, and I told you I interviewed with 2 places here in Texas. When they reached out to me, I was just looking. I wasn't even ready to start interviewing yet. But they are going to find you once you get on LinkedIn. So get you a professional LinkedIn account, make it look good, and yeah, start searching the jobs because they will find you. Just speaking for experience for neonatal nurse practitioners, I know some family nurse practitioners or pediatric nurse practitioners may have a hard time finding a position. But as far as right now in 2023, 2024, NNPs are in high demand. They're in high demand. So people will be reaching out to you. I mean, so many people reached out to me. I had already accepted my job here in Houston, but even after the interviews that I've done, so many other companies have reached out to me just asking, was I even interested in a conversation? Like, just they just wanted to get their foot in the door so they could just tell me what's so great about them. So people are trying to get you left and right as a neonatal nurse practitioner. And because of this, I feel like it puts us in a position where we can be really picky with who we choose. The same way that the companies were interviewing me, I was interviewing them. And I'm going to talk more about that in my other videos. But yes, I literally felt like I was interviewing them as well. It made it where I can see if I was a good fit for the company and if the company was a good fit for me. This is a big one. And I really suggest you guys do it. I know it takes extra time, but it's so worth it. I would say interview to practice. Interview to practice, because as a nurse, you are not used to these type of interviews. Like, the way nurse practitioners interview is not the same as an RN. And so I went on 5 interviews. I wanted Houston. That's where my heart was. But I went on several interviews before I had my interview with Houston. So when it came down for me to interview with Houston, I was relaxed. I had practiced my answers. I had several scenarios that I could apply to different questions. I was prepared. I knew what kind of questions to ask them. I knew what to do, how to show up. I was comfortable. When I got to my job that I wanted, I was comfortable. Not saying that I wouldn't have considered the other jobs that I interviewed at, but the job that I wanted, my dream job, was here. It just gives you a chance to calm your nerves before you interview for the job you really, really want. And also it gives you a chance to kind of see the layout, how things work. I mean, places will fly you out. You know, I did come out here to Houston to see Houston, but other places, they will fly you out. They will get you a hotel. They'll get you a flight. They'll do all kind of stuff to, you know, bring you in. And I feel like that's great. Like, you should go. Like, you're a new grad. Go experience that. See what it's like to be recruited, you know? It's a good feeling. So go ahead and take those opportunities to practice your interviewing skills. I promise you, you will not regret it. And these jobs, even though they may not be your dream job, they might surprise you. Like, they may have an offer you can't refuse. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did get a very serious offer. And it made me think, like, I know I really want to go to Houston, but do I really need to go to Houston? Like, it made me think. So sometimes these jobs, they may surprise you and make you reconsider where you actually want to go. Okay, for the interviewing process, make sure you still dress up. The first interview for me, this is how it went for me and the interviews that I did. Okay, the first interview was on the phone. It was short, you know, maybe 15-20 minutes just with the recruiter, touch base with you, you know, letting you know what they were looking for, asking you, are you looking for the same thing, before you move to the next step. And then the next step, Zoom meetings, especially like if they're out of state, if the job you're looking for is not in the same state as you. But even in St. Louis, the jobs that I interviewed for were over Zoom. They are panel interviews, so there's several people in there asking you questions. Somebody is like watching your face, watching your expressions, writing stuff down. It's nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And be prepared to have at least 3 to 4 of those. So that could put you at like 5 interviews so far. I mean, if you have the one with the recruiter and then the 4 to 5 with the panels, that could put you at 5 right here. And it could be over a span of several days or one day. These interviews, the people who interviewed me were nurse practitioners, neonatologists, and then like the heads, the leads of the nurse practitioners and the lead of the medical group. Let me see, who else? Nurse managers were in one of the interviews. So it could be the entire team interviewing you. Again, y'all, this is the reason why I say that you should go on practice interviews, because who's ready for that? Who's ready for 5 people looking at you, asking you questions, and then you're doing it over and over again? It's sometimes the same questions. It's sometimes you giving the same scenario, even though you know you just said it to one group of people. Now you have to say it to another group of people. So that's why I say it's important to do these practice interviews. Okay, so when you're doing these interviews, you still want to dress up like you're in a face-to-face interview. I wore blue or white for my interviews. I don't know, it's something about wearing blue. It's just giving off healthcare, you know what I'm saying? It's giving off the right answers, I feel like. Or white, because it's giving off the right answers. Those are the 2 colors that I wore. And the most important thing you need to wear is your smile. You have to smile. You have to be somebody that these people want to see. You have to be somebody that these people want to work with. You have to be inviting. Like, they are going to be on your team. You're going to be on their team or whatever. So you're going to have to smile, have your personality on for hours at a time to let them know, like, hey, I want to be part of your team. I'm excited. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to do this job. After that, the 5 rounds, I got down to my last hospital, which is the one that I wanted, and I came out for an in-person visit. And like I told you, other hospitals did offer for me to come out, get a hotel and a flight for me and stuff like that. But this was the hospital that I wanted to come to. So I came here. They paid for the hotel. They paid for the flights. Everything was paid for. And I was able to come down, visit the hospitals that I would be credentialed at, and meet the team that I would be working with. And when I tell you, this right here was the game changer. The other hospital that I told you gave a really good, convincing offer. I did not fly out to meet the team. So it literally blew them out of the water. Once I came down and met the team, I loved my team. I would love the hospitals that I was going to be credentialed at. And of course, I loved Houston. So it became a no-brainer at that point. Something to remember when you do come out and do the in-person interview or shadow, make sure that you wear comfortable shoes, because you're going to be rounding with them. You're going to round with the medical team, kind of see how they do things, walking around. And then for me, after we round, then I went into the rooms and I did a couple questions with each doctor and each nurse practitioner by myself in front of them instead of just on Zoom. So it was an all-day process. After that, we went out to eat, and still, you know, it was an interview situation. So even though it's more relaxed and you're eating and everybody's drinking and laughing and having a good time, remember that you are still always interviewing. You're still always interviewing until you are away from them. So keep that game face on. Do not have drinks. Do not get out of line. You are still interviewing. At no point should you get comfortable enough to feel like, oh, these people are my friends, I have the job. Like, girl, you do not have the job until you have the offer letter, until you sign the contract. So do not get that comfortable, even though you've been with these people all day long. Do not find yourself slipping. If your team does not offer you a shadow day, you should ask for one. You should. If they just offer you the job and they don't offer you a chance to shadow, you should 100% ask for a shadow day. This gave me so much perspective on where I would be working, what the workload would look like, what the nurses, let me tell you something, the nurses make up a big chunk of my decision making, because the nurses can make it really hard for you as a new grad. So it gave me a chance to meet the nurses, talk to them, see what the personalities was like. Like, are they inviting? Do they care that a new grad is coming? Are they irritated? Like, what's the personalities like? Is there a lot of complaining about this situation, or is it very inviting? So it gave me a chance to see that. It gave me a chance to ask the doctors questions. I insist, like, if they don't offer you a shadow day, ask for one. And like I said, you're with them all day, so they may be driving you around, especially like if you're credentialed at different hospitals. Like, I'm credentialed at 3 different hospitals, so the person who picked me up from the airport is the person who drove me to the different hospitals to meet the different staff and to see the hospitals. So you are with somebody from this company all day long. So that means you are interviewing all day long. Once the interview is done, you go back to your hotel. At this point for me, I got a phone call and I got the offer right away. So that was great. That was good for me. I was able to go to sleep at night and be happy. If that's not the case for you, that's okay. The job that's meant for you will come for you. Or if they're just not telling you today, doesn't mean, you know, that you did bad or whatever. Just wait on the answer. Type up your thank you email for each person who you interview with, the nurse practitioners and the physicians. Type up your thank you email, letting them know that you are grateful for their time. People always like to be thanked, and people love when you remember their name. So make sure you thank them for giving you their time and showing you around. Leave something for them to remember. I hope those tips were helpful for you guys. It's very scary being a new grad and trying to interview. I know I was in a panic because I didn't have a job and it was already January and I didn't graduate until June. Okay, I was in panic, but don't worry, I'm gonna make another video for you guys, and I'm gonna continue to make these videos because, like I said, being a new grad as a neonatal nurse practitioner can be scary. But don't worry, I'm here for you. In the next video, we're going to talk about what happened when the offer letter came through, how did I negotiate my salary, and the questions that I asked them and the questions that they asked me. So make sure that if you wanted more content like this, you push that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.